Welcome to the brand new Zach Lowe Show. That's right, I'm back to have the same in-depth NBA conversations you're used to. We're going to talk about the games. Yeah, the games, the X's and O's, the drama, the trades, the playoffs are coming up. And now you get to see every episode in full on video on Spotify and on my own YouTube channel. Episodes drop every Monday and Thursday with a collection of guests you're going to love. So make sure you follow and subscribe to the brand new Zach Lowe Show on Spotify or wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Let's go! Welcome to the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. My name is Danny Heifetz, and I'm joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck for the Aaron Rodgers D-Emergency podcast. I feel like Aaron Rodgers waited 85 days to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so we waited 85 hours. So I feel like that's fine, right, DK?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, it's the beginning of June. We kind of knew this was going to happen. And also Aaron Rodgers, he is who he is. Craig, how you feeling about all this?
This brought us out of summer hibernation, and it should have. It deserves it. I think this is, if we want to get right into it, I think this is a great move by my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do. I think this is inarguably a good decision.
Move.
Inarguably a good decision.
Inarguably a good decision.
Yeah.
Was inarguably to sign Aaron Rodgers or inarguably to wait till June 9th to sign Aaron Rodgers?
Okay, cool. He missed 3 days of OTAs. They had been in contact with him since March. Arthur Smith was preparing the playbook for Aaron Rodgers since mid-March. They knew he was signing with them since mid-March. They wanted to respect Aaron Rodgers' personal life and what was going on with that. And so he signs a few days after OTAs. They knew he was signing before OTAs. They just didn't want to announce it. I don't think this is a big deal.
You sound like all the Jets beat reporters last year who were saying, "Oh, it's fine. Who gives a shit?
He was in
Whatever.
Egypt.
He's in Egypt. He's on a vacation. Blah blah blah." And then for the first month of the season, he didn't have any chemistry with his receivers.
Well, he's been working out with DK Metcalf this offseason, so no worries there.
Remember the time Aaron Rodgers said OTAs don't matter and then screamed at, basically threw Mike Williams under the bus on Monday Night Football because he turned
running
the
wrong
way slightly.
He missed 3 days of OTAs. Everybody can relax.
So was that your first reaction, Craig? Or was that your 3 day later reaction?
My first reaction was honestly in the most positive way possible. Like, this was the best thing you could have done. This was the only thing and the best thing the Steelers could have done. Like, every other argument to me doesn't make any sense. Like, you can make all the jokes in the world about Aaron Rodgers is washed, all this stuff, which is maybe probably true. But what were the other? So Kirk Cousins? I don't think so. They tried to go after Matt Stafford. That wasn't going to happen. They didn't want to keep Russell Wilson. They maybe wanted to keep Justin Fields, but they didn't want to pay him as much as other teams would have. And it's like, okay, cool. Even if you, to me, this is a really solid, like, low risk, high reward situation where if it burns and flames out and this is a disaster, next year's a great quarterback class. The Steelers are setting themselves up to have the most picks in the draft next year, which the draft is in Pittsburgh. There's like 5 great quarterbacks coming out next year. It's supposed to be a much better quarterback class than the one we just saw. I'm kind of like, look, sure, could they have done like Kirk Cousins or something like that? Do you think it's more likely they win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers? To me, I think it's still Aaron Rodgers, even if the likelihood of them being worse is much greater. To me, it's like low risk because the low risk is them being shitty and getting a top 10 pick in the draft. And the reward is like they win a playoff game for the first time in 10 years.
I agree that the upside's higher with Rodgers. Do you feel that way, DK? And also just to remember,
Kirk Cousins? Yeah.
So or Russell Wilson or Fields. Do you feel that way too, DK?
No, I mean, I've been on the record saying I think they would have been better off just keeping Russell, but
oh, really?
So,
yeah.
Oof. So Rodgers, so again, just to
again, I want to reiterate, Aaron Rodgers got everyone fired on the Jets last year.
The Steelers lost 5 straight games with Russell Wilson to end the season.
Yeah, they had a really tough schedule at that point. I mean, Russell Wilson wasn't the only reason they lost those games.
So Aaron Rodgers, just to back up for a moment.
As soon as Aaron Rodgers loses a game, I'm going to say, look, Russell Wilson could have won that game.
Yeah.
But all these arguments
you should
don't know
do that.
the answer to.
Like, what were we supposed to do? Bottom out with Mason Rudolph and waste a year of DK Metcalf, TJ Watt, and Minka in their prime? Like, to me, this is the actually only thing they should have done.
Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf makes a lot of sense to me, actually. I mean, look, if we're talking about connection, that doesn't feel like a wasted year to me. But again, like it's an impossible question to answer because who's better in this situation, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers? I don't know.
The Steelers are paying Aaron Rodgers $10 million.
Yeah, okay.
Which is the same amount as like Darius Slayton. So there's also not like some financial situation here that's untenable for Pittsburgh. They would have probably had to pay Russ more. I think the Giants are paying Russ more.
What did Russ get paid?
Is it $10 million or $13 million?
It's 10 guaranteed.
Okay. And $3 million in incentives and stuff.
I think it's $5 million in incentives.
So if hypothetically he gets hurt on the fourth play of the season, it's probably just $10 million. Got it.
Yeah. So you could argue this is kind of a discount double check.
I would like to argue. I would like to have the argument or discussion. I don't even know the answer to this. Who's a better hang? Russell Wilson or Rodgers?
I think to other players
who are you going
in the
to like
locker
rather
room,
hang out with?
I think to other players in the locker room, it's Rodgers.
I agree with that. I think because Rodgers, at least you don't know what he's going to say next. I think Rodgers, at least I don't know what's going to come out of his mouth.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Even in like Russell Wilson's heyday, his receivers fucking hated him. It's like Golden Tate, Percy Harvin. Actually, maybe it wasn't Percy Harvin. Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin. They both like.
It seemed like the Russ thing like had run its course in Pitt. It had only been a year, and it felt like everybody was kind of over it. And again, they literally lost 5 straight games to the year.
So on that, I think to that point, Craig, I will, and again, I've been pretty harsh on Aaron Rodgers for quite some time now, mostly for things that he says. But I will say, I will make the case for Rodgers and like basically why are the Steelers doing this? And I think, frankly, the case for the Steelers signing Rodgers to me is very similar to the case for the Jets trading for Rodgers, which almost gets underrated now. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP of the NFL in 2020. Then Aaron Rodgers was the MVP again in 2021. And then Aaron Rodgers broke the thumb on his throwing hand in 2022. And he had a down season, but almost got underrated that one of his thumb is broken on his hand, and they kind of underplayed it. So then goes to the Jets in 2023, and he tears his Achilles in the 4th snap, so we don't see him for that season. And then he comes back in 2024, and he's 30, however old he was, 40, recovering from the torn Achilles injury. So yeah, that season probably wasn't going to be great. So you could pretty clearly argue medically that despite him being old and off the Achilles, he will be better this season than he was last year because he's not recovering from it still. So you could argue that this is probably going to be, he's not going to be an MVP level like 2021, but he might be closer to that 2022 season with Green Bay, but with a working thumb. So it's not crazy to me to think that you're going to get a better version of Rodgers in Pittsburgh than you ever saw in New York.
I fear that a but is coming. Well, but I like what you're doing so far. Keep going.
Well, I'll go deeper because I don't want to pretend that the Steelers are like idiots. Mike Tomlin is like, there's a logic here, and I get it, which again, it's similar to the Jets. The Steelers, when the Jets got Rodgers, if you put it in one sentence, it was because the Jets sucked in the red zone and they needed Aaron Rodgers. That's what the Steelers had this year. The Steelers were 29th in red zone conversion rate last year. Rodgers in 2020, I believe, basically had one of maybe the best red zone season of all time. Rodgers is also literally the best quarterback ever at not turning the football over. Aaron Rodgers has thrown an interception 1 out of every 150 pass attempts. It is literally the best mark ever. And I'll give you $1 billion if you can tell me who he's tied with.
Didn't that get a lot worse last year, though?
Yeah, well, that's what we're getting to.
but significantly worse.
Yeah, and the story you're telling yourselves,
frankly,
is
worse.
Yeah, but Mike Tomlin, what you're telling yourselves is, well, the Steelers aren't the Jets. So Mike Tomlin's looking at this. I think I'm not Mike Tomlin, but my guess is Mike Tomlin's looking at this and saying, well, we're going to convert more in the red zone because we have Aaron Rodgers and he's going to be able to convert more. DK Metcalf, we're going to be a more explosive offense because we have DK Metcalf and we'll be better in the red zone. Rodgers to Metcalf, we're going to be not be 29th again, but we're not going to be doing that like Jameis Winston style at the sacrifice of turning the ball over. Defensive coach, no turnovers, red zone efficiency, defense gets better, don't get run 200 yards on by the Ravens again on defense, and like we make a Super Bowl run. I think that's the Steelers' logic here. Obviously, there's flaws, but beggars can't be choosers. So I do agree, football-wise, it's probably the best option the Steelers had. I think that to me is the vision.
Hence, inarguably.
Well,
I'm very curious how this offense is going to look because in a lot of ways, I mean, this is the same issue you run into with Russell Wilson. So I guess that's a kind of a moot point, but like the Aaron Rodgers offense, it's the Aaron Rodgers offense. It's not going to be the Arthur Smith offense.
Keep in mind here that Arthur Smith has worked with 2 guys a lot in his career, Todd Downing and Matt LaFleur. 2 guys who have, those are the last 2 people who have really worked with Aaron Rodgers calling plays. And again, they've been working together since March. So I do think that there is like a better chance at a fit that actually works here. And also with Mike Tomlin, I do think there's a little bit of like when Aaron Rodgers can run the team, that's what you don't want. And the Steelers, luckily, are one of the few
Right.
teams where Tomlin is the type of person who actually commands the locker room. I mean, last year on the Jets, you had Saleh got fired like week 3 or 4, and then it was Jeff Ulbrich coming in. Like, it's a disaster.
Bricked
Nobody
up.
knows who's running the team. There's more stability at from a leadership standpoint, I think, where Rodgers will have to at least answer to somebody on a week-by-week basis.
I agree with that. I know that we're veering out of like actual football talk and into just like psychoanalyzing, but I agree, Craig, that like Rodgers is almost in Baker Mayfield territory where I swear he plays better when he's doubted than when people believe in him. And I do think just like Jordan Love, the Jordan Love pick happens and Rodgers wins 2 MVPs. Something about Rodgers kind of being a punchline now with the Steelers. Like I do kind of think, I don't want to say more motivation, but yeah, Rodgers probably shouldn't be catered to. Rodgers kind of like, I mean, Belichick pissed Brady off all the time on purpose. Like Rodgers being catered to, maybe there were some things lost. Like I do kind of think Rodgers in friction, maybe that is the best version of him. You know what I mean? However, DK, to your question, what will it look like? I have a question for Craig. I would like to spin that because my 2 cents here is, Craig, you're like, the Steelers, they finished 0-5. If I may, Craig, I would argue the Steelers finished 0-5 last year. Largely because the offense sucked. And the offense sucked because Russell Wilson is an aging athlete with a very specific play style, and Russ is used to making defenders miss in the pocket, but now is too slow to do it. So what you're left with is Russ being overly reliant on a like high degree of difficulty throws to the outside and getting the ball out quick because you're too old to take hits.
You're going to say same thing for Rodgers.
Yeah, and you know who else? Ben Roethlisberger before him. This is the same movie. We're on year 10 of the Steelers having an old quarterback who can't take hits, who has to get the ball out quickly, but they're too old to be mobile, so it kills the running game. And it's like, in a weird way, we're looking at Mike Tomlin doubling down for like the 8, basically outside of the Mason Rudolph year. Like, this is kind of going to be the same offense for the 8th of the last 10 years for Pittsburgh. It's kind of the same plan. Just with Rodgers probably being the best person to do it. Rodgers is better than late Roethlisberger. He's probably better than Russ, in my opinion. But it's the same thing with the same sets of problems, just the idea that Rodgers is more talented.
I don't disagree with that, but what's nice about this is not some long-term commitment. This is a truly one-year experiment, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it causes everything to get blowed up, that's actually might not be a bad thing.
I think that is the fairest point, because what some people would maybe call a move of total desperation that is actually unbecoming of your proud franchise.
$10 million for 1 year.
I think that's fair. A year comes and goes, and I agree with you that the idea, as much as I don't like hearing Aaron Rodgers speak all that much anymore, I agree that like if I was a Steelers fan, I don't think I would want to watch. Like I understand why the Steelers fans are all like in unison. Like I can't watch Mason Rudolph again. No. Like the reindeer. Like I can't watch that guy.
That would be more negligent to me.
Yeah,
if
but
they went with Mason Rudolph.
By the way, real quick, I was just trying to remember like what happened down the stretch for the Steelers last year.
Yeah,
this lineup of opponents is insane.
It was like Ravens, Bengals, Eagles, Ravens, Eagles.
Yeah. Eagles, Ravens,
insane.
Chiefs, Bengals, and then they lost to the Ravens in the playoffs. Like those are like the best teams in the entire NFL.
And again, the offense couldn't move the ball, but the defense gave up. I mean, I don't want to get this wrong. I think the Ravens ran for 500 yards on the Steelers over 2 games. So let's not pretend for
Russell
a second
Wilson
that it's
sucks.
just like an elite Steelers defense. So look, we're going to talk about this for a long time. I think it's really fun. We're in this, our podcast specifically is in a funny spot where now Russell Wilson is going to play for all 3 of our teams, which is ridiculous. And then Rodgers is Rodgers is now going to play for the Steelers, which is funny, but Rodgers is going to be like Russ, who's now going to play for all of us. But I do think, DK, tell me if I'm wrong, are you saying Rodgers, you'd rather Russ over Rodgers because you're saying Russ got screwed by that schedule and you think Rodgers is cooked? Or basically, I do think Rodgers has a better chance to execute those high degree of difficulty offense, basically, is where we're at now, where you're not going to be able to run the ball that well, but you're going to have to make these throws. Like, you think Russell Wilson's better suited at this point in time than Rodgers to get the Steelers to the Super Bowl?
I mean, I don't think either of them are going to get the Steelers to the Super Bowl.
But if I told you there's 2 out universes,
I feel like
and one made
I'm
it.
being a little bit like there's a little part of me that's just trying to be a contrarian here because you guys think Rodgers is so good, even though he just got everyone on the Jets fired.
That's not what we're
I
saying.
just think he's better than Russell Wilson.
I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is good, to be very clear. I just think they both kind of stink at this point. And Russ can move, I think, better than Rodgers. And like Russell's deep ball is still there. I think Rodgers can still hit tough throws too. I'm kind of just leaning into it at this point because it is what it is. And I just think they both kind of stink at this point. But I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess there is a
you look at
world
the
in
last
which-
5 games
yeah.
Rodgers played last year and the last 5 games Russ played last year. I mean, the Steelers, the 5 games they lost, they scored 14 points, 17, 10, 17, and 13.
It was terrible. And again, they literally couldn't convert in
And
the red
Rodgers
zone,
got
and I think
kinda
that's
hot
a
at the
large
end of
part
the
of it.
year.
Craig, I think the flip side.
He also had Devontae Adams, and now he does not
I was
have
going
Devontae
to say.
Adams.
I will say, Craig. To
Well,
your
we're
point,
gonna have Kyle Pitts, so
yeah.
Yeah. By the way, there's rumors. That's the other thing we got to talk about. Rumors. They are trying to trade for Kyle Pitts. I don't know.
mean,
But
at this
are we
point,
redeemed for
Tomlin's
all our
just-
Kyle Pitts love now?
at
Arthur
this
Smith
point, I'm like,
wants him.
fuck it. Let's have it like one. Sure, we'll take another drink. What is it? 3 a.m?
I know,
Like, who
yeah.
cares?
Craig, I have a couple. I still have a couple quibbles, but I will say the one thing. I think my quibble is when you're like, oh, it's to June. Well, who cares? My inclination is there's a reason this basically has never happened. Honestly, the last time anything like this happened, frankly, is Brett Favre skipping training camp. But that was back when there were 2-a-days and he was too old to run. And he's like, I don't want to do this. It's hard. But like, at least he had been on the Packers forever at that point and he knew the system. I will quibble with the fact of like, who cares that he didn't sign till June? Because how many times have you heard Mike Tomlin say, we don't care about the outside noise? They're literally the party line basically is Rodgers didn't sign till June because we were scared of the outside noise. That's basically what it is. Rodgers didn't want a story to be that he was missing practice, so he just didn't sign.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're in the position of either giving a playbook to a player without us knowing that wasn't under contract or he didn't get a playbook till June. That's weird. And I will come back to this. Don't take it from me. Cam Hayward, who I believe is a captain of the Pittsburgh Steelers and pretty backbone to this whole Steelers are a Super Bowl contender thing, said in March, he basically went on his own podcast and was like, if you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. Like, sign or like, what is going on? And that was like 3 months ago that Cam Hayward had run out of patience with this. It's one of those things that if the Steelers start 3-0, no one will care. But if the Steelers start 0-3, everyone's kind of going to be like, that's really weird. You didn't sign till June, isn't it? And I also think if it goes terribly, some of the shine's going to come off Mike Tomlin.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Heifetz. I was thinking this the whole time we were talking. I'm like, winning cures all. If they start winning
Yes.
early on, like it'll be fine. They play
Doesn't
so
matter.
here's how their season opens. At Jets versus
Which
Seahawks.
is just unbelievable.
And the
Classic.
Jets have Justin Fields. It's like a key party.
Yeah.
It's like a key party where they're getting breakfast in the morning. Fields versus Rodgers in week 1 is crazy.
You guys tell me if this is like a really tough start or not. I think it's pretty easy relative. At Jets versus Seahawks, at Patriots versus Vikings, bye week, versus the Browns, at Bengals. And then,
I'd say that's
and
all
then
right,
against the Packers.
Forget the
Pretty
first 5 games. I have
Pretty
a scenario. Craig, what if the Jets beat you in week 1?
Shit's
Has there
gonna hit
ever
the
been
fan.
a more must-win week 1 game ever? Then imagine the Pittsburgh if Justin Fields just throws for 300 yards.
Well, yeah, until Aaron Glenn kind of like pranked Aaron Rodgers, I feel like it was a revenge game for the Jets until Aaron Glenn kind of stuck it to Aaron Rodgers, and now I feel like it's also a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Fields also this is the thing. I will say this. I actually agree with what you're saying, Craig, and if I were a Steelers fan, I would feel the same way for the most part. My one quibble is this. The one thing you haven't considered of like, what were our options?
Mm-hmm.
The Jets paid Justin Fields 2 years for $40 million. That is not much for a starting quarterback. Justin Fields is more or less the lowest paid starting quarterback in the NFL is not on a rookie deal.
That's fair. Well, Aaron Rodgers, but that's fair. But
well, fair. But I guess what I'm saying is I agree that if you put a gun in my head and said the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl this year with a quarterback available, who is it? I would say Rodgers. However, in a world where Sam Darnold just won 14 games with the Vikings and Baker Mayfield's a legit starting quarterback now after the Panthers gave up on him and Geno Smith after 8 years as a backup is good in Raiders now, like where all these guys that we gave up on are solid. If Justin Fields is revived, which is not some small thing, but if Justin Fields looks good and is 26, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 17 years younger than Aaron Rodgers. And you could have had him for $40 million.
Yeah.
That is the scenario where Mike Tomlin is on the hot seat because Tomlin's the guy who wouldn't play Fields. He played Russ. And if Justin Fields is good, that is like the one that was sitting in front of your face. That's the world where it's a mistake if Fields balls out in week 1.
That is the best non-Rodgers argument to me. However, what I would say to that is I do think next year's quarterback class is stronger than we've seen in a couple years. And so 2, signing Justin Fields to a multi-year deal, I don't think makes sense for what the Steelers want to do. I don't want to have, could it have been a 2-year deal? Did he want a 3-year deal? Did he want something longer? I don't want that. To me, that sticks us back in the Steelers mediocrity that we've been in. Like, I know Justin Fields is not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Like, I don't care if he is a little bit better than he was on the Bears and he's a startable quarterback in the NFL. He's the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. Like, that is not something I want to do for the next 2 to 3 years with the Steelers. I want to know right now, go for it right now. And if it doesn't work, you can start over.
Do you really think the Steelers...
Bringing in Fields to go 9-8, 10-7, and it's like, oh yeah, they snuck into the playoffs again with Fields and they get destroyed in the playoffs. To me, that's what we'd be signing up for if we brought Fields back.
That's fair, but DK, how do you feel about that logic of just like, well, it's a good quarterback class next year? Because I'm a Giants fan where it's like the Giants were 4 wins or whatever, and then they win 2 games, and you suddenly have the 6th pick instead of the 3rd pick. Like, even when you're trying to lose, the Giants played their way out of Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams in like a 2-week stretch. So the idea that the Pittsburgh Steelers are like, yeah, we'll win 4 games. I don't know. I don't think
that's fine. And like, and they're probably not going to have a top 5 pick. Like, they're probably not going to be that bad. Knock on wood, I would guess. If they did, maybe, I mean, that'd be kind of awesome actually if they had a top 5 pick. But I think my point is like, it seems like next year the Steelers, it seems like Omar Khan, the GM, and like next year does feel like a transitional year for Pittsburgh, regardless of what happens this year.
That's fair.
And they're grabbing a bunch of draft picks. They're going to likely have a lot of comp picks next year. I think they're going to have like 12 picks if everything works out the way it's supposed to. And it's always hard to predict a draft class, but I'm like,
right.
I don't know. It's like one of those transition years where you can get behind the short-term and long-term goals of the team, in my opinion, as of right now.
This I feel like it's always fun to think about whether it's better and more effective for your organization long-term to like be really consistent, like win 8-9 games every year, even though Craig is like, this is mediocrity, this is my living hell, this is literally purgatory. But then you look at a team like the 49ers who have really stable leadership right now, or at least they have had stable leadership, but then they would like vacillate between really, really dominant and then terrible. And they get like the 2nd pick and they get Nick Bosa and you know what I mean? And they like kind of like yo-yoed back and forth. Yeah. And like that actually like helped them long-term. I don't know. I think it's obviously an impossible question to answer.
And like, even if they have a bad season and let's say the Steelers go 7-10, they have like the 15th pick in the draft. It's not like at 15, you get your pick of whatever quarterback you want. Like, it's still going to be very hard to like trade up and do all that. Like, that's very, very difficult. I mean, the Browns, who was it? It was the Jags traded away a 1st-round pick to move up like 2 spots. It's very hard to like do that. I guess you could look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs were good and they traded up to 10 to get Mahomes from like 22 or something. But
Mahomes wasn't really treated like he was going to be Mahomes. Though,
no. But like I'm saying as an example of kind of like sneaking your way into the top 10-ish if they needed to.
Didn't the Bills trade up for Josh Allen too? Or
with the
Chiefs, right?
No, sorry. The Chiefs traded up with the Bills for Mahomes, and then the Bills traded up for Josh Allen later. Right. The last thing I'll say at this, because we didn't mention it, Rodgers beat Mike Tomlin in the Super Bowl, and you know what? I don't care how smart you are. That stuff
you still think that matters?
Always stays with you. You never forget that guy, his singular incredible performance beat you in the Super Bowl. And like as a defensive coach, you don't forget those things. It's kind of like how Bill Belichick still talks about like Ed Reed, like he just remembers that stuff. And I think that's in the back of Mike Tomlin's mind.
It's a good call.
And if they make the AFC Championship game, I will eat crow. And Mike Tomlin knows more about football than me, as Mike Tomlin would say. That's why I'm well compensated.
If they go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to have to eat a lot of crow.
But if the Steelers, if Mike Tomlin's first ever sub 500 season is the only Aaron Rodgers year, it's going to be big, like play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
But again, like what were they supposed to do?
Well, if Justin Fields is good, they probably should have signed Justin Fields. They offered him more than the Jets.
Just because it was the best of a bad situation doesn't mean we can't make fun of it.
Yeah, also, like, maybe don't get in this. I think the answer is don't get in this situation.
I'm still going to make fun of it.
Don't draft Kenny Pickett. Maybe don't draft literally the only quarterback that lived in your building 2 years ago.
That was a terrible. What were they supposed to do then? GM, tell me.
I'm just saying it's been.
Sometimes you get unlucky.
Years.
A lot of NFL success is based on timing and luck. And the Steelers have not had good timing the last 3 years. Also, come on, this is all-time content. This is so good.
I actually, what a weird, great week 1 game, Jets Steelers. It's like a really random must-see TV.
They should just make that Sunday night. Fuck it.
Honestly, yeah, flex it.
Oh, damn, that's a morning game. That's anticlimactic.
Well, morning, or as some people in Pittsburgh and New York would call it, the afternoon.
Well, I don't live there.
Well, that's where the games are.
We're gonna have to. We're definitely gonna be at the draft in Pittsburgh next year. We're going.
100%.
I'm gonna try to announce a pick. That'd be cool.
Oh my God.
You guys can get the 7th round pick announcement. Can we make that happen?
Oh wow. If anyone wants to let us do the 7th round, let
Craig's
us know.
up there with the terrible towel.
That would be funny.
Rodgers, discount double check.
This is from ESPN. Running back Nick Chubb is expected to sign a 1-year deal with the Houston Texans, which we're recording this Monday, June 9th. So it's contingent on Nick Chubb passing a physical, which isn't like a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
But I am curious what you think of this, DK.
I mean, I don't really think much of it, to be honest, right now. It really felt like Chubb was pretty much washed last year.
I think
maybe
this says
he's
more about the
bouncing
Texans
back really hard, and maybe he's like, doing the Nick Chubb thing. I wouldn't put it past Nick Chubb to come back and be like way more explosive than he was last year, because obviously he was coming off massive injury. But
I think this says more about the Texans than it does
29.
about Nick Chubb. Yeah, I mean Nick Chubb, because he had obviously had a series of horrific injuries.
Kai says he passed the physical.
Oh,
so
there you go. Past the physical.
one.
So it's the year after the big injury. So for Chubb, but really what I think it means to me is like the Texans last year, the defense is incredible. The defense, frankly, for Houston is ready to compete for a Super Bowl. The offense was, as I keep saying, uncoordinated, and it was a combination of the offensive line room was a mess, but also the running backs. Like Joe Mixon is there, and obviously Joe Mixon's a good running back, but behind him, the Texans don't trust anyone. Dameon Pierce does not, I don't believe, has the trust of the coaching staff. You have Woody Marks, the USC running back, who's a rookie, and then you have Dario Ogunbowale. They just have like this rotating group of running backs, but if Mixon goes down, the Texans don't have a running game, and I don't know if it's that Nick Chubb will be that guy, but I think the Texans do fancy themselves a Super Bowl contender, and they probably look at it, it's almost like, I feel like there are always archetypes of players that teams are like, it's almost like a pass rusher where it's like, Von Miller. They're like, if you just get to the Super Bowl, like, can you just like play 25, 30 snaps a game and be a closer? I think Nick
just
Chubb's
somebody
like,
who's been there before,
Yeah. At the very least, the work ethic, can you like establish some professionalism on offense as a minimum? And maybe you actually play and like can contribute like 5 carries in the playoffs, but like in a way that we don't think you'll fumble, and like, in a way we don't trust Dameon Pierce to like hit an open hole. Right. But I think to me, it actually is a move of like, we want a really, really deeply respected veteran in the locker room for a Super Bowl run. Mm-hmm. I think that actually is what this is. It's like, I don't know, David West or some shit. I don't know.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Shouts out David West.
Shout out David West. Okay. We'll just do some emails and we can get out of here. We're gonna keep having it. We're gonna have episodes all summer, so don't worry. But we get in the 2 for Rodgers. We've treated it with the urgency of Rodgers himself.
I heard. Did you guys see that Rodgers is only wearing corded headphones because he's afraid of like the Bluetooth waves?
Is he?
I
thought he's just old. I feel like that's just. I mean, no offense to any old people at this company who maybe.
I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna do my own research.
Okay.
Early returns seem positive.
Oh, so what number is he? Rodgers is doing 8, right? Is that the number I saw him? He's gonna wear
8. Yeah, 8.
Okay.
What did he wear in on the Jets last year? I am number blind, by the way. Like I couldn't tell you any player's number.
He wore 2?
No idea. You could tell me any number.
No, he wore 8.
Yeah, he was 8. He was the 8 there as well.
Yeah, there's like very few quarterbacks I can be like, I know what number they are.
Right, same.
Like if you ask me, Dak Prescott, I have no idea.
Do you know what number
4.
Tom Brady is?
12.
Aaron Rodgers was 12.
Yeah, on the Packers. Like I know like Peyton and like Brady and stuff, but like you just like Baker Mayfield, I don't know.
Russell Wilson was 3. I remember that.
Well, Russell Wilson was 3 because he was taking the 3rd round, right? Sneakily, a lot of guys' numbers actually.
I mean, that's actually why.
Tell me that's wrong. He'll never admit it, but he was a 3rd round pick. Like he definitely worked.
But Brock Purdy's number 256.
Yeah, that's why.
That'd be funny if they allowed him.
Dude, my favorite draft thing with the pettiness ever was Jamal Adams being like, dude, I remember the name of everybody that was taken before me. And Marshawn Lattimore replied and was like, dude, you were the 6th pick. That's not, no one cares. Oh, congrats on your 5 names.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amon-Ra St. Brown could list like the 39 people who went ahead of him.
He does it every day
the
before practice.
Yeah.
He's like Arya Stark.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll read an email here before we get out of here. I want to read this from Nick.
Eggbone.
Nope.
That's it. We're axing that.
That's the worst one. Okay. Nick says, so we had asked people about how so we were talking about the Red Wings and how they throw the octopus on the ice before games. And we were like, how do you get an octopus in the stadium? If you've done that, email us. Well.
Smuggle that. Yeah.
Nick says, diehard Detroit Red Wings here. Red Wings fan here.
Stash.
What did you?
Nothing.
Oh, God.
What did you say?
That would be dangerous.
He said keister stash. That's what he
Let's not
said.
do that.
You said it.
Well, I was just throwing out ideas.
Do you strap it around your crotch and tie its tentacles around your waist?
It's like
kind
a
of like you're wearing a
loincloth.
diaper, like an
Yeah.
octopus diaper.
Or like a windbreaker around your waist.
a really big
Like a
hat.
huge ick.
Imagine just showing up with a giant hat and an octopus under it and easily getting discovered. The security guy just lifts up the hat and he's like, hey, man.
Well, on that note, Nick's email is that here's how you get an octopus in. You buy the dead octopus from the market. You boil the octopus to get rid of the smell, which is funny.
That gets rid
then
of the
you-
smell. That's
You lift
interesting.
your shirt.
It's like taking a bath.
Yeah, you lift your shirt and you secure the dead octopus around your stomach with saran wrap. And then you pass through security.
Don't worry, those are just my intestines. They're falling out.
Like the beginning of Tropic Thunder. So Nick says, because this tradition is so popular, the team actually just pays the fine for people throwing the octopus onto the ice because they don't want stuff on the ice, so they fine you. But Nick says, I have heard stories of gate security finding the octopus on fans, giving them a wink, and then just letting them in anyway.
Hell yeah, that's so fucking awesome. Hockey, once again, remains
Best
the best.
sport.
Great sport. I will say, Bill said this on a show the other day, and like it's so true. When the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals are this happens every year when they're happening like vaguely at the same time. Sometimes I think they actually schedule them apart, but like they're always happening at the same time. And you hear like what injuries are in the NBA, and then you hear like how hockey players are playing through like punctured lungs, and then you're like, oh yeah, this guy broke his neck 3 weeks ago and hasn't missed a game. And then suddenly I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Everyone in the NBA
Just
should be
built
playing.
diff.
I know. Like I remember, didn't Mookie Betts stub his toe this year? I think he ended up breaking it, but
He did break his toe.
The
but he's
original
back already.
report was like stubbed toe. I was
Yeah,
like, you just can't write that for a professional athlete.
Oh my God. Okay. Do you guys want anything? Tells baseball players? You want to just get out of here?
Well, I wanted to bring up the fact that many people pointed out to us that we already had the Rube Waddle conversation.
Oh, the old baseball player.
We keep doing this, guys. I think I mentioned it when we were having the conversation that it felt very familiar. But yeah, we already had that whole conversation.
That's called
apparently
podnesia.
Podnesia.
We've done it quite a lot lately. For
We
whatever
have.
reason.
We're kind of too
losing our
young to have
marbles.
entire conversations that we've already had.
Part of the problem is we have a lot of conversations not on the show too, and I can't keep them straight. I don't know what we've talked about on the show and what we haven't.
Two of my best friends were arguing once, like yelling about where the guys from Florida Georgia line were from. Which, I mean,
If there's
spoiler.
any band in which you should know where they're from.
And I literally was like, not only is this the stupidest thing I've ever heard, you guys kind of did this already. Yeah. All right. Could get out of here. This is good. We're quarantining the Rodgers conversation away from everything else.
Yeah.
Man,
It's immunized.
can you guys believe it?
Craig, did you get a text from your dad when he signed?
I did. I got a lot of texts from concerned friends being like, hey, man, sorry. Rough. And I
Also,
was like,
we
I feel
also
great.
forgot the most important part of this, which was the timing of it was hilarious because it's when Trump and Elon Musk were
He got
tweeting at each
buried
other.
by-
Oh my
by
God.
his
That
idols.
was,
The
we
funniest
totally
part.
buried the lead. He waits 3 months to announce he's signing, and then like an hour later, Elon is like tweeting about Epstein files and shit. And it's like, oh my God, things are going down here. But yeah, that was great. That was perfect. Couldn't have picked a better time for them to do that.
Heifetz, you were talking about Cam Hayward's frustrations. I think I saw today that Rodgers and DK Metcalf are doing Cam Hayward's podcast today. So
Classic.
check that out.
Yeah, obviously Cam Hayward, like they'll get over it. It's not like I'm just like pulling out of my ass that it's weird. It's like Cam Hayward said 2 months ago, like, why is this taking so long? And that was in
Again, I
March.
think the deal was decided. Albert Brio reported that the parameters of the deal were decided in March. And so I
Yes,
think
but
since then, Rodgers has been, preparing to be on the Steelers.
Yes, but you put it the best way, which is Rodgers is being treated like it's like Mad Men when they have this really annoying client that they have to keep happy. And like the idea that they're catering to Rodgers before he even works for them, like he literally this is literally special treatment for someone that had no other options.
But again, if he was like, hey, look, there's stuff going on in my life. I'm not going to be there for OTAs, so that you can either announce it now and deal with me being the quarterback on the team and not being at OTAs, or I can just not sign until after OTAs. What would you pick?
I would pick, you should probably work for the team. Like you should probably and maybe the Steelers actually were happy to have the flexibility in case he did some crazy stuff or he got
What was he
hurt.
doing?
I don't know.
Craig, can you get to the
Maybe
bottom
it was
of this?
real personal
I
stuff.
don't know.
It might have been real personal
He said
stuff.
on Rogan that there's people close to him that have cancer and he's dealing with that. So I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
how
that's
do you feel
totally legit.
now?
And I don't want to
You
just.
feel
I don't
bad now,
want
I bet, huh, DK?
No, I don't want to besmirch. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
there's real stuff going
I'm not
on.
going to say anything about that.
I just don't necessarily see how that conflicts with like getting a playbook.
Maybe
And
he
he
had
probably
one.
does have a playbook.
Well, if he has a play, okay,
Yeah.
then sign with the. Why isn't he working towards signing with the team?
Because then it's 3 months of Rodgers isn't showing up. Where's Rodgers? Oh, he's doing the. Is he in? What pyramid is he in today?
If Rodgers came out and made a statement, if Rodgers came
You're
out
right.
and
He could
said,
have done
I am
that.
not going to the pyramids or anything. I have like some serious personal things going on in my personal life. People I really care about are going through things that I would like to keep private. I hope everyone keeps my privacy. I'm going to be away from OTAs and we're going to be back and ready for training camp. And just put out a statement. I don't think people would be mocking that, to be totally honest. Like it's different than
he
taking a
wants to
Netflix
be the
crew to
story.
Egypt.
I think you're
All
right.
right.
I think that is probably correct. But has there ever been more media coverage for a team that just goes 9-8 every year? Like it's pretty remarkable. They just have a different quarterback every year. They just go 9-8. Rodgers, Kenny Pickett, 9-8.
I can already see the take purge, which is like, in a world where, actually, should I save it?
I mean,
Probably.
Yeah, I'll save it. Okay. All right. Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Carlos.
does that
Thank you,
mean I
Austin.
got to watch all these McAfee interviews every Tuesday now?
Oh, no, they'll find you.
Yeah.
They're
No,
gonna
the answer
find
is
you.
yes, Craig.
Don't you worry.
All right.
Thank you, Lauren.
Lauren.
Thank you, Kenny Rogers.
Oh.
I just think of Kenny
I think it's
Rogers
Seinfeld.
roasters. Yeah. Dude, that's the origin of the meme, of the Kramer meme. It's like, it's the NBA Cup, Jerry.
My buddy has a life-size cutout of Kenny Rogers in his house. And my friend Courtney, every time she walks by it, just screams because it's just like right there in the corner of your eye. He puts it right in the bathroom, so it's like
She like jump scares every
yeah,
time
like
she
legitimately. It's great. I think they had to eventually take him down because it was causing too much.
Take Kenny
drama.
Rogers down?
Yeah.
Oh, the post. No, okay.
The
Heifetz-
life-size cutout.
That
yeah.
that Seinfeld episode, I mean, it had to be some writer was literally living in an apartment across from a Kenny Rogers chicken.
It's so bright.
Has to
Like
be.
it had to be. Maybe they changed the name of it, but like I'm sure they were just like, yeah, this is like, honestly, we did that to Zach Schwartz, who used to work at the Ringer, and Zach Schwartz had this giant green neon light. I don't know who made it, but it was just like green neon Ringer light. And then we moved some desks around, and Zach Schwartz faced this neon light. And then after like 3 weeks, Zach Schwartz comes to me and is like, I think this is like affecting my vision. Like he couldn't drive to work.
He's been like
he was
staring into the
couldn't sleep.
eclipse for
And then like he like
weeks.
sheepishly went and asked to change his desk. And I was like, yeah, you should definitely like move. You should turn that off. But for 3 weeks, he just stared at it because, yeah, I think we
It's
blinded
like when Craig tried to have an LED light and then he almost died.
2 feet from my fucking face.
him. We almost
Craig
killed you.
Do you want
I
to
had,
tell
like-
that story? Do you feel comfortable
Yeah,
telling
we were
that
like
story?
figuring out our at-home video setup, and so we got sent these LED panels that I set up literally 2 feet from my face at my
It's like-
desk.
It was a ring. It was a ring light.
Right
But it was
in
like
your face.
it was a rectangle. It was a straight rectangle of light.
Yes, and it was blasting at me, we record for, 90 minutes. We're doing it 3-4 times a week. And literally after 2 weeks, I basically had like a perpetual headache all the time. And I was like, I felt hazy. And I was telling my wife, Liz,
You were
I was like,
dizzy, right?
I think something's wrong with me. Like maybe I need to go to the doctor. Like, I don't know.
You
what's
couldn't drive
going on.
home, right?
No, I like everything hurt. Like my brain just hurt. And then I was trying to like go back and retrace my steps. And I was like, when did this begin? What has changed in my life in the last 2 weeks? And I was literally scrolling through my photo album on my phone. And I looked at this one stupid photo I sent, I think to Liz probably, of my desk setup. And I was like, it's the fucking LED light. This thing is poisoning my eyes.
It's just blasting you in the
It's the
face.
ring light, Jerry.
And then I started doing some Google researching. I started doing my own research, and it appears
God
as though
damn
an LED light a foot away from your eyes is perhaps not the best.
I'm glad you made it.
Thanks.
I was worried about you.
I know. Can you imagine if I didn't make it to the
The
2025
LED light killed Craig.
before Aaron Rodgers joins the Steelers?
You might wish that you were blinded for this coming season.
Uh,
Just wait for Justin Fields to throw for 350 on Tomlin's defense, and then you're like, I got 4 more months of this. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.